Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So my name is Sithole, as you guys should know, and I'm really humbled, guys. Thank you so much for the support that you have given me. Thank you for the love. I know that most of you that are watching have been supporting me since day one, so I just want to say thank you, guys. So in today's video, we're just going to be doing a topic on residency, and hopefully it helps most of you. Most importantly though, I'm going to be covering the 330-day rule so that you guys better understand how it fits into the topic of residency. So residency is obviously a topic that we cover in taxation 2, so I'll just be covering that. Before I go into the 330-day rule, I just want you guys to understand what a resident is, and then see how the 330-day rule fits into this. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you click the subscribe button and become part of our family. Let's get right into today's work. So a natural person would be a resident, or would be seen as a resident if they are an ordinarily resident of that country. And when you are answering exams, this definition says a natural person. So in your question, just understand and be conscious when you're reading. When you see the name of a person, not the name of a company, when you see the name of a person, then just write that that's a natural person. So you would expect that these rules would apply because that person is a natural person. But when you see a company, on the other hand, you would say that this is a juristic person, right? Okay, so a natural person would be seen as a resident. So you would be seen as a resident if, first of all, you are an ordinarily resident of that country, or by the virtue of the physical presence test, right? But what is ordinarily resident then? We say that ordinarily resident is not defined. So you get a mark for saying a natural person would be seen as a resident if they are an ordinarily person, if they are an ordinarily resident, or by the virtue of the PPT. And then going further and saying that they are ordinarily resident, right? An ordinarily resident is not defined in the Income Tax Act. And as a result, you would have to look into case laws in order to understand what ordinarily resident means, right? So you have 2 marks already. Just stating how you'd be a resident and stating that ordinarily resident is not defined. So you'd have to look into case laws, right? So which case laws would you now have to look into in order to understand what ordinarily resident is? There are 2 case laws that are applicable. This is the Cohan case and the Cattle case. If you don't have the case laws, you can always search them on Google. But in the Cohan case, there are 2 principles that are shown that define what ordinarily resident is, right? The first principle is that a person will be ordinarily resident in the country in which they regard as their real home. So a person might be outside of South Africa, but if they keep on expressing that I love South Africa, that I am in another country because I have to work there, but I still want to go back to South Africa because that is my home, right? Then that person is indicating that they treat South Africa as their real home, right? And secondly, the second principle is that a person will be ordinarily resident in the country to which they will return from their wanderings. So when you're answering this question, these are the 2 these are the 2 words that should definitely be in your question. That the person should regard South Africa as their real home, right? And they should regard South Africa as the place they will return to after their wanderings. So wanderings is very important, right? So that's the first case that tells us what ordinarily resident means, right? And then the second case is the Cattle case. So in the Cattle case, we also have principles, right? And then the first principle is that a person will be ordinarily resident in the country in which they have their principal residence. So for example, if I go to the UK, but my home, or my house rather, is in South Africa, that is my principal resident. Let's say I go to the UK and I go to work there, but on holidays I always come back here to my family, where my house is, right? That would be my principal home. As much as I would be renting an apartment in the UK, I have a house in South Africa, so that would be my principal home, where my family is, where I carry out most of my habits, right? And then the second point would be the place where they spend time on most activities or where their family is, and where they return to after occasional absences. So even if I had to go to the UK, that's an occasional absence. Me leaving South Africa and going to the UK does not necessarily mean that I stop to be an ordinary resident of South Africa. If I'm occasionally absent in South Africa and go to the UK, then that does not mean that I'm no longer an ordinary resident, because this Cattle case showed us that a person can leave South Africa on an occasional basis and still come back in South Africa and still be regarded as an ordinary resident even when they were not in South Africa, right? So those are the two cases. So if you look at your scenario and you see that both of these things are actually shown, right? So you're going to state the Cohan case, you're going to state the Cattle case, and then you're going to now apply those two cases, right, based on your scenario. So you already have a lot of marks. Also, when you are writing this case down, also write down the case name, right? And then if you look at all these points and you see that the person is not an ordinary resident of South Africa, only then do you now go to the physical presence test. I'm going to repeat because this is important, right? So I was saying that if you see that a person is not ordinarily resident in South Africa, then you go and test if they are not a resident by the virtue of the physical presence test. In order to be a resident as per the PPT, you need to meet the following requirements, all of them. Firstly, you must not be ordinarily resident. You must not be an ordinarily resident of South Africa, so you must not meet what we just discussed. Secondly, you must be present in South Africa for more than 91 days. Not more than or equal to, but more than 91 days. So if you are physically present, if you are physically present in South Africa for 91 days, you have not met the PPT. You need to be physically present in South Africa for more than, not for more than or equal to, right? And then physically present in South Africa for more than 915 days for the past 5 years before your year of assessment. So you're not going to count your year of assessment. You can think of the PPT as a 6-year test. You need to look at your year of assessment and see if you were there for 91 days, and then look at the 5 years before, right, and see if you were there for 915 days in total, right? Not only that, but in those 5 years you must have been physically present in South Africa for 91 days on each of those 5 years, right? And if you meet the PPT test, then you are a resident for tax purposes, right? Okay, now we have established that you are a resident by the virtue of the PPT, right? So once the PPT is met, one becomes a tax resident from the 1st of March, let's say 2012, all the way to the 28th of February 2013, right? So if your year of assessment, you are looking at 2013, then you would say that if you meet the PPT, we are going to tax you for the whole year, unless the 330-day rule is met, right? So normally you would be taxed for the whole period unless the 330-day rule allows you to be taxed differently. So let's explain what the 330-day rule is, right? So I'm going to use an example over here. So Melissa, who is 28 years old, and Mike, 26 years old, met on a dating site. So Melissa, I don't know how to pronounce the same name. Melissa seems to be a natural person, and Mike seems to be a natural person, because they didn't say CC, they didn't say PTY, they didn't say PTY LTD. They didn't say anything. This seemed like the names of people, right? So this is a natural person. They met on a dating site, and after chatting for a few months, they fell in love. Melissa is a professional accountant and has lived and worked in South Africa her entire life. Mike, however, lives in the UK, where he is a singer of a band he formed and manages. So this is where his habits are. This is where he works, because he manages that band, right? And then Mike has an apartment in the UK. So if he has an apartment in the UK where he is staying, then that is giving principal home, right? So that those principles should be clicking in your head as you are reading this. And then it says throughout the years, they have taken turns in visiting each other quite frequently, with Mike visiting Melissa in South Africa more often as his schedule was more flexible. When visiting Melissa, Mike would stay with her in her townhouse, right? So Mike didn't buy an apartment in South Africa. When he comes to SA, he would go to his girlfriend's place, right? And then it says, details of the time that Mike has spent in South Africa in the 2024 year of assessment and in the 6 previous years of assessment were as follows. So you're given days, right? And then you are told on an additional note that because of his busy schedule, Mike spent a continuous period of 331 days in the UK during the 2023 and 2024 years of assessment. Mike left South Africa on the 31st of December 2022 and only returned to South Africa on the 28th of November 2023 for his 93-day visits in the 2023 year of assessment. So whenever you are dealing with the 330-day rule, I find it very useful for me to do a timeline. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to make a timeline, and with my timeline, the guiding factor would be my year of assessment, right? So my year of assessment is starting on the 1st of March 2022. Okay, let's just look at the question. The question says, discuss whether Mike is a resident of South Africa for tax purposes during the period 1 March 2022 to 28 February 2023 and 1 March 2023 to 29 February 2024. So I'm going to do the first timeline, which is going to be 1 March 2022 all the way to 28 February 2023 and see if Mike is a resident in that time period, in that year of assessment, right? So we are told all of this, right? So in order to get to 330-day rule, in order to get to whether he's a tax resident, you have to apply the rules I told you. Say that you are a resident if you are ordinarily resident or you met the PPT, test the requirements of the ordinarily resident, use the 2 cases, mention the 2 cases, apply the 2 cases. If you do not meet ordinarily residents, go to PPT, right? After you meet PPT, now you need to consider whether the 330-day rule was met, right? So you would see that the person would not meet the ordinarily resident requirement because, first of all, this person is a singer of a band that he founded and manages, right? That is giving that person's habits are in the UK, not in South Africa. He also has an apartment in UK which he bought together with his friends, right? So that's giving principal home. So this person would most probably not be an ordinary resident of South Africa. But that's not where my focus is. My focus is on the fact that this person meets the PPT because the requirement says, for example, 2023, I'm going to focus on these ones, right? For 2023 says must have been there for 91 days. So they are there, here, 91 days for the past 5 years, right? So the third requirement is met. They must have been in South Africa for 91 days in the year of assessment. That is met because they were there for 306 days, right? And then it says that they must have been in South Africa for a number of 915 days in the past 5 years. So if I'm looking at 2023, I'm going to start counting from 2022. So you count all these years. Let's just do that quickly. So 190 plus 200 plus 220 plus 230 plus 98. So that gives us 938, which is greater than 915. So the person meets the PPT test, right? Now that the person meets the PPT test, I need to consider the 330-day rule, right? And I'm going to use this, right? So you establish that the PPT is met, and you write PPT met, right? And then they tell us that Mike left South Africa on the 31st of December 2022. So Mike left on the 31st of December 2022. Mike left. So as I said, normally when you meet the PPT, you will be taxed on the whole period. However, unless the 330-day rule is met, you'll be taxed differently. So let's see if the 330-day rule is met. We are told that he left South Africa on the 31st of December 2022 and only returned on the 28th of November 2023. So this person returned on the 28th of November 23, returned. So this person left from here. So they cease to be a resident from the day after when they left. So on this day, they are still a resident. The day after they have left, they cease to be a resident. So on the 1st of Jan 23, they would cease to be a resident. All right. So let us count how many days it is to move from 31st December all the way to 28 November. So I just have a quick recap for you guys. So there are 4 months in a year that only have 30 days. The rest of the months have 31 days except for February, which has 28 days or 29 days. But for test purposes, we would consider we only consider 28 days for February, not 29 days, right? So the 4 months that have 30 days are April, June, September, and November. So when you're counting, don't say 31 days for all the months. Say 30 days for these 4 months, and then 31 days for the rest of them, and 28 days for February, right? So to move from the 1st of January 2023 all the way to 28 November 2023, in January I would have 31 days. In February I would have 28 days. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. In March I would have 31 days. In April has 30 months, has 30 days, 30 days. So I write 30, 31. June has 31. June has 30. July has 31. August has 30. September has, oh my god, okay, August has 31. September has 30. October has 31. November, they said that the person returned in South Africa on the 28th. So meaning the person is present in South Africa on the 28th. So we can't count that as being outside of South Africa. So it's gonna be from 27th of November, right? So it's gonna be 27 days. Let's count what that gives us. So 31 plus 28 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 27. Okay, just a minute, guys. I must have made a mistake with my 31s. Okay, everything is fine. I just forgot to add one more 31. So when you add all of them, you get 331 days. So 331 days. So from this period when they left all the way to the 28th of February, we have 331 days, right? So because of that, the 330-day rule is met. When the 330-day rule is met, it breaks the rule of PPT that says when you meet the PPT, you need to text the person for the whole text period, right? So what they are going to do now is to text this person from the 1st of March 2022 all the way to the 31st of December 2022 as a resident. So meaning on their worldwide receipts, so whatever you get from the rest of from the world, right, you're going to be taxed on that. And then from the 1st of January all the way to the year end on a source-based tax, right, because they become a non-resident, right? So on the 1st of Jan 2023 all the way to the 28th of Feb 2023, they would be a non-resident. So they would be taxed on a source-based. They would be taxed on a source-based tax, right? So just so you guys understand, right, you need to meet the PPT. If nothing happens after you meet the PPT, you will be taxed on the whole period, meaning from the 1st of March 2022 all the way to the 28th of February 2023, right? However, if you meet the PPT and something else occurs, we need to consider the 330-day rule. So the 330-day rule is basically a rule that allows you to break having to be taxed the whole period, right? And the 330-day rule looks at whether you left South Africa and left for 330 days consecutively, right? And if that was the case, then we are not going to tax you for the whole period, but we are going to apportion how we tax you. So for example, in this case, the person was supposed to be taxed for this whole period. Right? But because they left South Africa for more than 330 days in that very period, right? From that period going to the next period. So they left South Africa on the 31st all the way to, right? Let's just use a different. So they left South Africa from here all the way to the 28th of February. And in all those days, they accumulated to 331 days. Sorry, you had to start here because you said you ceased to be a resident on the day after. And here, right? So those days equal 331 days. So because those days equal 331 days, right, it means the 330-day rule test is met. When it is met, it breaks how you are taxed in the current period. They won't now be taxed on the full period, right? They will now have to apportion based on the number of days, right? So they would be taxed from the 1st of March 2022 to the 31st of December 2022 as a resident, and from the 1st of January 2023 all the way to the 28th of February 2023 as a non-resident. So yes guys, that brings us to the end of this session. That was just me explaining the 330-day rule. Hopefully this helped you guys. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you click the subscribe button. See you guys in the next video. Bye.